YouTube, so this is going to be recorded live on YouTube, and I'm going to have to hit the record button in a second. Takes about a second to initialize, so about 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. Okay, got it. And I'm going to record now on the cloud. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our portion of the WOW Real Estate Group. I'm excited today. We have Jesse Oriol to do our presentation today. And I would like to quickly go around the room, just name and title, just to introduce ourselves. And I'd like to start with my longtime friend, Sandra McCarthy. How are you, Sandra?
Longtime friend and present day friend, Juan. I am co-founder of CVC and listing agent with HomeSmart Cross Island.
Excellent. Thank you. Hey, Steve. How are you, Steve? Oh, we can't hear you. I guess the audio, it's weird. We can't hear you. Well, Eileen, I'll go to the next. Eileen, how are you, Eileen?
Sure. How are you? Good. Yeah, I'm in the personal finance space. I help individuals and couples in the area of debt management, like credit cards, student loans, and vehicle loans. And so I coach them through reducing those debts.
Excellent. Thank you. Howie Man, how are you? Thank you. Howie Man, how are you?
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I'm Howie Man, Quick Commercial Capital. I help people when they've gone to their bank and for any reason whatsoever, the bank won't or can't help them. I will find them the money for their business or their real estate ventures.
Excellent, thank you. And Steve, I don't know if you still hear us or not, but
yeah, is that?
We hear you.
Okay. So Steve Straub, I work with typically owners of homes and commercial properties, businesses, as their advisor for their design and construction.
Excellent. Now, I'd like to introduce some of our co-chair committees, and I'll start with Marlon. Hey, Marlon, how are you?
Hello, everyone. All right, Marlon Pena. What I do for a lot of people out there is people that have bad credit, they get back to me. I'll give them a quick consultation, see how I can help them better their life and their credit. And then, of course, opportunities open from there once we are on the right path of success on that. So that's what I do.
And again, WOW, he's also a WOW committee member for the WOW Real Estate Group. So, and thank you again for your service. And Shannon, Shannon is the co-chair of our real estate group. How are you doing, Shannon?
Good evening, everyone. Juan, real quick, if you could just put the Zoom ID in the chat for me. I have a few folks saying that they're
I texted it to your phone on the phone.
Yeah, they're still saying they can't log in. Oh, okay. I have 3 people saying they can't.
Yeah, sure, no problem. We could definitely do that. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'm Shannon Polblight with Jovia Financial Credit Union. I help you get into a home, and I am here if you have any questions. We have all kinds of nice products, and super excited about Jesse's presentation today. So thank you for everybody for joining.
Excellent, thank you. And then we go to Paul Polblight. Paul, how are you? Our other co-chair, the better half. I would say.
Doing fantastic.
Both halves are better.
The better half. Oh, no. We're amazing. No, she's the better half. Trust me, she's the best.
No.
So
you guys are both equal. You guys are both equal.
Oh, lovely. All right. So happy New Year, everybody. I'm so grateful to be here today with everybody. Paul Polblight, the owner of Apollo 3D, a digital design practice, helping architects, engineers, entrepreneurs, real estate professionals visualize spaces. And I'm with an amazing group tonight. We have Jesse Oriol, who's going to really kind of hit the nail on the head with a lot of interesting topics with home, like really how to price out home insurance and how to really find out and answer those weird questions that you have, and how to really start the process and take this kind of the next level, and how to approach the situation, which is really important, especially if you're a real estate agent and you're dealing with pretty much how to walk through your client and how to describe your products and service. So I would like to kind of introduce Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse. Go right ahead.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Kind words always appreciated. I see a couple of familiar faces. Actually, Sandra, we've talked not that long ago in the past. We talked about your over at HomeSmart. I'm glad to see you here. Let me share my screen and we'll kick this guy off. Okay. Let me just know. We recently found out that I am not an expert in sharing screens. So please bear with me. Let me know when you guys see everything.
Yep, we see it.
You see it? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, that click. Yep, we see that one. Yeah. Auto
All right.
save. Yep.
So this is my company here, right? My name is Jesse Oriol. I am a personal risk specialist at USI. My office is based right here locally in Long Island in Uniondale, and right there in RXR Plaza, across the way from the Nassau Coliseum. So although I'm local, I'm a national broker. You know, we are all over the place. We have 5 offices in the tri-state area, 5 in the northeast of Florida, and throughout. I've been inside of insurance now as an agent for somewhere around over 8 years in total. So I've been able to really help people out from, you know, natural disasters through several hurricanes, you know, through different floods, different fires, different thefts. So there's a lot to it. I feel like I'm starting to sound like one of those commercials that you see where like I've seen it, you know, we've done it all, you know, because if you had a problem, we've insured it, you know, it's kind of like that. USI is a great company. They're very unique as far as what they do, right? They we offer all the different home, auto, excess liability, which is also commonly known as umbrella policies, valuable articles, watercraft, yacht, aircraft, recreational vehicles, and as well as different tailored services. I know a lot of people will look at this and say, why is a watercraft bubble on here when we're talking about home insurance? Because a lot of people don't know that you can actually put your liability for the watercraft, or actually the hull itself, you can insure your boat on your home policy, right? Up to a certain size. Of course, the yacht would be separate, but liability could cross over. It all depends then about living space, things like that. So, you know, we have specialties on the personal risk that really get tailored to you, you know, the best way to do it, right? And it's important that you know that we offer other lines because of different varying pricing points, as well as just making sure that we are able to really give you the best foot forward, capture your entire risk, limit any outside exposures. The biggest thing that we do in all these offices across the board here is that we educate our clients. Okay, we educate people on their risk. We educate them on what the cost is, where the costs are projected to go. We come up with the plans to help mitigate losses, right? We have, you know, we have all the little friendly sheets, the one pagers that tell you what to do. We go over everything. We don't just say, hey, don't do this because this could happen. We cite cases, right? We have case studies that will be able to identify and quantify your results, your potential losses. I mean, we'll even go as far as like making sure that you have no diving signs up for your pool, right? We go over a lot of different details as far as educating you, knowing that you're in the best hands possible. We do all this through our process with our unique proprietary tool. It's called our Omni. It's a way for us to give you a side-by-side proposal and explanation and research behind what happened, what's around the corner, and how to protect yourself, right? It's really what determines the difference between us. We have calculators in there to help determine people what their truly net worth is. Most people today don't know what that is. And it's a very important piece of being a homeowner, is understanding your net worth, because that's basically what someone could sue you for, right? And your net worth isn't always what you have in the bank today. It's what you own, what you can sell for money, right? What you're making now, what you're going to make in the next 10 years. Are you in line for job promotions? What industry are you in, right? That industry could be, you know, projecting to have leaps and bounds in income, which then if you're at fault in a lawsuit, they can go after your future earnings. This all is important under home ownership because we actually protect you really from the first day that you walk into that new home and you're on those grounds. Okay. Just a little bit of a general overview of some of the points that we're actually going to be hitting. I'm probably not going to go too far into any one of these topics because there's a lot of different things. I could talk probably at like an hour and a half to 3 hours just on flood, right? Coastal areas as well. A little bit more relevant things than today is replacement cost. That's the biggest thing when it comes to mortgages, coverage A in order to get the proper coverage, and you know, how we get there with different inflations with inside construction. We're going to go over supply chain issues, how that's going to impact your claim repairs. Just to touch up on the state of insurance in other areas, like in other places like Florida and California, there's companies everywhere that are pulling out of different states, right? Florida had recently a short list of over 20 companies that were becoming insolvent. So you need to make sure that when you're buying that house in Florida, you're buying it with a company that actually is going to be there, right? I say this all the time. Insurance is a promise, right? You're buying a promise. You're buying a promise that if there's a fire or someone breaks into your house or whatever the peril is, that there's going to be somewhere to help you financially during your worst times, right? So if you're buying a promise from a potentially insolvent company in Florida, you're not really making a good deal there. You're not doing it. So we can help you, make sure you're picking a good, financially stable company. California is probably the hardest state. Everyone thinks that it's like the Beach Boys hanging out, San Diego, SEALs, right, in San Francisco, but it's not. It's actually the hardest state to insure because it is so diverse in terrain, right? You go from deserts to mountains and ski slopes and beaches and wildfires and earthquakes and bears, oh my, right? There's just so much that goes on in California that people don't understand, like the terrain. Like I don't really understand it because I'm from the Northeast, right? I'm a Jersey guy in Long Island, right? So what do I know about California? But these insurance companies, they're really putting it there. There's all the different winds coming off the Pacific coast that you have to worry about when you're on the coastal guidelines. And that what's really leads into the different areas of the trillions of dollars that are paid inside the natural disaster claim section alone. Okay. Texas alone is a state last year had billions of dollars paid out, right? And then you add in fraud, right? Where they didn't get the fraud claim, like the water didn't come all the way into their basement, so maybe they just turned their garden hose to fill up their living room a little bit so they get a nice new furniture, right? Property values fluctuate, right? Which everyone thinks that that's going to drive the cost of the insurance. It is and it isn't, right? Not for the coverage A, not in the replacement cost. Just because the house is worth more today doesn't mean it actually costs more to build. Right? Because that's what insurance is making people whole. It's not a warranty, right? It's not there to help upgrade your house. It's not so you can put an extension on. You're not taking your little cape and blowing out to this Grand Victorian with some insurance money. We're not doing that, right? We're going to make you whole again. How much money is it going to take to give you the same space to live in, right? And that's what it is. And then we have the appetite, right? That word drives me nuts sometimes because I hear from carriers all the time. Oh, it's 175 feet from the canal. That's not in our appetite. Yeah, you're in Suffolk County and it's 2 miles from the water. It's not our appetite, right? Like I know someone here is in the business construction loans. I'm sure you hear that word appetite all the time. That's just basically saying that they don't want it. Go to another carrier, and that's a good thing why you're dealing with a broker, because there's always another option, right? And with coastal, when you're dealing with how far you are to the shoreline, being on the North Shore versus the South Shore versus being in Brooklyn or New Jersey, it all varies in distance and with something they call the CAT score or catastrophe score, right? So that's what I'm here to do, is help navigate those waters literally and help you get the right policy. And then get into a separate type of policy, which is flood. You can get from FEMA. You could do, you can do a private company now. It's wide open as far as what you want to do. I know that, New York State just lost its subsidiary where things are getting a little bit different for certain companies. So there's gonna be a lot of fluctuation in there. And the national flood, they're really going to be stepping up and helping out people with different rate locks where there's going to be less fluctuation in those flood products moving forward. Okay, so that's kind of like the whole gist, right? Boom, that's what we do. So let's just see where we're going to be. So if you guys remember here, if you guys live out here around Long Island, right? We had right before Christmas, right? There was that big rainstorm. Well, I live in Wandsworth, and I'm not too far from a canal. This is the canal that pulled up about 3 blocks away. This is my house. This is the block that the school's coming down. my Christmas decorations were the last resort to stop that water from coming in my house. And I'm not sure if a decoration there, it gave up on me. That's supposed to be a snowman down there in the bottom. But I was about 6 inches away from getting out of kayak to be that guy in the video, hoping I went viral, you know. But yeah, going right down the picture that's on my right, right, that goes straight down 10 houses to the canal, right? So it's pretty far, but the water comes up fast, and once water comes, you got nothing to do but wait. All right, so you see this, you freak out a little bit. Luckily, it stopped right where you see it stopped, but if it wasn't, I would have been covered. Okay. So now how does this tie into everything, right? Like, how do we put this in with your mortgage? You know, how does home insurance affect your actual mortgage, right? Qualifying, you know, for a buyer. Well, you know, without going into reading a whole definition of what an escrow account actually is, if you want to read it, be my guest. But basically, you know, what it does is it works in there where your taxes and insurance are typically escrowed, where it's a bank account that your mortgage company sets up, and then they collect a piece of your mortgage payment, put it over to the side, and then they pay that for you, right? If your insurance goes up, you're going to get a lovely letter at renewal, say, you know, after the renewal of your policy. Or even if your taxes go up, that you have an escrow shortage, right? This is all part of it. Now, those are things that you deal with once you have the loan and you're in your house and you live in your happily ever after, right? Make your payment. Hopefully nothing goes up. Hopefully your taxes goes down. Hopefully your insurance stays the same, and then your payment never changes. But how did you get there, right? The beginning of the escrow, right? You have to typically fund it by paying for your first year of a home insurance upfront. This way, that first year of payments actually pays your second year of home insurance, and so on and so forth. And this way, it's always there. You always have a surplus of money inside your escrow account, and then you'll never have to really come out your pocket as long as things stay the same, right? Taxes, right? Taxes always there. Taxes are going to go up. It'll change, but hopefully, you know, we'll be there. Now, it's important to understand what your insurance costs are during this, right? It's important to, as you're getting close and you're pre-approved, to get an idea of what the insurance is going to be, because what your monthly escrow impact is going to impact your ability to finance, right? So your overall debt to income, you're going to have to be able to say, I can afford not just the principal of this house and the interest of the house, but I could also afford the taxes and the insurance and everything else, and then all my other bills, and I have to stand to those ratios. So it's important to know what those insurance costs are, because if you don't know that you're walking into a flood zone, there's people out there that are paying $7,500 a year for flood insurance, right? If you fall in love with this house, but you never looked at it, you just went nuts, and now you have to pay that much money just for insurance. So it's a good idea to understand, are you in a flood zone? What's the general insurance cost? You know, things like that. And a lot of times the information that we need to get those quotes going for you for those estimates is usually a couple things from you and a couple things from the listing. Like, nothing too crazy. But we got a little friend here, a little Frenchie, right? He's out there watching out for us, letting us know what we need to do. Okay. Okay. So the first thing you need to know is like really when to get a quote, right? You get a quote after you visited the house and you like it, right? That's a good idea to start, right? It's early in the process. You could just tell your loan officer, that's it. Your loan officer is usually using around like $125 to $175 a month on average, as far as like what it costs to how to figure it in there. This will just help solidify what they're thinking, and then give you more accurate numbers, right? So, but when you want to buy the insurance, when it's time to actually get it, you get it when that loan officer tells you to get it, or that closing attorney tells you to get it, right? You want to have it about roughly about a week before closing, right? Giving the underwriters, the processors that work with the loan enough time to analyze it, make sure there's no clerical errors, making sure that the loan number's on there the right way. This way, if there's anything to be changed, it can be done. And then you have a nice, quick, happy customer who closes the loan pretty quick. And then during that process, right, the way you used to get the value of what it costs to rebuild, how much coverage to get, is changed. All that ties into replacement costs, the coverage, construction costs, right? The rebuild cost, really, the rebuild cost. 2x4s cost more, right? Everyone says, "Oh, remember when gas was a quarter a gallon?" Now people are saying, "Remember when a 2x4 was $2?" Right? It's just replacement cost is a lot higher. So you have to have a detailed estimator breaking down the height of the walls, the type of structure, whether it's a colonial, the type of build, how much brick veneer, or is it a solid brick? Is it a frame house? What kind of electrical system? These are all the things that you're going to go through in the application that your broker hopefully will be finding out or discussing with you to make sure you do that. Okay. What you want to do is you want to stay away from underinsuring that property, right? Don't use it, right, as a reason. Don't cheap out on a couple of dollars just to make the price work to close in the home. Buy the right insurance, right? You don't want to buy a $700,000 house, a $2 million house, and then not have it replaced. Okay. You don't want, you have to cover it in full. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying a lot more for it in the end. And if you're bringing in, items into that house like rings and artwork and things like that, make sure you schedule them, right? Because there's a separate section for those particular items, right? If you have artwork, if you have, jewelry, different guns, if you collect guns, if you have golf clubs, right? Cameras, things like that. I know cameras are kind of outdated today, right? Everyone's iPhone. I mean, I have a $1,200 camera, like this Rebel, that doesn't take anywhere near as good of pictures as my wife's iPhone. Not my iPhone. My iPhone camera is broken, but her camera takes really good pictures. But I think that's just the operator and not the actual device. But yeah, and then because once you have that, you have your deductibles, right? You can self-insure a little bit, take on more risk yourself, right? You don't have to do a $500 deductible. Why do that? It's going to cost you more money. You shouldn't put a house claim in unless it's an uncomfortable thing, right? Like if a tree branch blows off and goes through your window, right? And it's just a window pane that's broke, fix the window. Don't call an insurance company, right? Pay the whatever it is to fix the window. It's going to cost you less. But if the tree itself falls on your house, then you call the insurance company, right? Because then the whole thing, right? We'll be covered that way. And then you also want to do a very big step here is you want to make sure you get this house inspected. Don't be silly, right? Roofs, general contractors can't drive down the block and say, yeah, that roof was built in May of 08. That roof is good. And it was June of 16. Yeah, I can see the hole under the third shingle from the roof. You can't do that. You need a home inspector to tell you that, right? The roof is the most important thing. There's more roof claims than anything else. So you need to do that, right? Water and roofs are like the two biggest things. And make sure when you get your new address, you're getting your new policies all together at the right address. Your old house, your old address, whether it's 5 blocks over, 5 towns, or 5 states over, it's not going to be the same insurance for your cars and everything else. So make sure you're packaging it, giving yourself that buying power with that carrier so that they would want that risk. Because if you're not going to bundle, there's half a dozen companies that aren't even going to want to insure your house, right? Some of them won't insure your house without quoting the car. Some of them will let you do it where it's a monoline, where it's your house only, but other companies won't even entertain the thought, like, we don't want just that. We want everything. And that's how these are doing it, right? And then if you're near the water or you're near, or there's a lot of rain, flood insurance. Do not get sucked in by thinking it won't happen to you, right? And when we had that storm remnants of Ida, right? People were in Queens were telling me, oh, I'm never in a flood zone. I don't need it. My mortgage. They got flooded out. They called FEMA. They got nothing. They got a hard time calling up for things. You got to get in order to get money from FEMA when you don't have flood, right? You gotta get a declination of paying out a claim from your current insurance company. That's always fun, right? Getting declined for an insurance claim. And then you have to go through them, provide paperwork, have adjusters, and they never give you what you want because you didn't buy the flood insurance. They're not going to give you what you want because they have a budget that they got to spread out across the whole area. They got another 100 calls just like yours. That pocket is not going to be there to constantly dish out, you know, and you want to be truthful, right? Don't say, oh, I don't know what claim you're talking about. There wasn't a fire in my house. Like, no, I never hit that guy when he crossed the street. And then all of a sudden it comes out in paperwork like, oh, my uncle, yeah, no, yeah, he came over and he thought it'd be a good idea to throw some gasoline in the fire pit. Turns out you shouldn't put water on a gas fire. Things got crazy, right? Things like this happen. You know, you don't want to make sure that you're talking about all the pertinent information, let them know that there's claims, because they'll also make a better case because we can research it, we can validate them or devalidate, you know, or we'll be able to drop them if we can. And that's it. And just like when you're getting a mortgage, right? They have that big, scary FBI letter that you got to sign saying that you're going to use it as applied for, right? You're not going to buy this rental property as an investment property, but you're going to say that you're going to live there and you never live there. You're just going to rent it out. You got to sign that big, scary, that thing scares me, right? I bought my house. I got that letter. I was worried, right? But say the right way that you're going to use the house. All right. If it's a second home, because you work in Manhattan and you can't leave the city until the summertime, and then you spend the rest of the time in the Hamptons, that's fine. A secondary home is fine. Don't say it's an investment home because you're hoping the value goes up when you go there so much, because then you're not going to get coverage on the property that you put in there. Or, vacation homes in certain areas, if it's in an HOA in a gated community, all these things matter, helping you get the right coverage at the right price, right? The worst thing in the world is it's probably not the worst thing in the world, but a bad thing is buying this policy, having it, knowing it's there, you have this piece of paper, and then you call the number when you have to put a claim in, and then say, no, we're not paying it. Well, why not? Well, you told us this, but what does that matter? It matters, right? Tell the truth, tell the pertinent information, let them know if you're renovating, right? Because if you're just gonna paint, spackle a little bit, do a couple small things, little minor renovations, that's one thing. But if you plan on buying this house and not living in it for 9 months because you're going to convert it from a 3-family to a 1-family, and you got to redo the electrical and floors and this, that, and other thing, you need a builder's risk policy. It's an entire different policy, right? If someone's there doing these renovations and they get hurt, they sue you, your home policy could not pay you if they don't want to. Probably will, but they probably may not. It's not going to be easy going through those claim processes. You have to tell the truth on what you intend to do, right? And then there's always like the issues that you have on trying to find a policy. It's not like it used to be, right? A year ago, 2 years ago, it was people would call around, right? 15 minutes or less. They call the gecko, call the emu, call whatever, whoever had you in good hands. And then that's where you got your quotes in 15 minutes or less. And that's what you kind of took, right? Because they gave you a low number and you hope that was right. Carriers aren't doing that. They're very picky today, right? They're going to ask you more questions than ever before. They want to know the story. They want to know who you are, what you do for a living, who's coming in your house. Are you going to put a pool in? How big of a pool? Is it locked? Is it fenced? Right? There's, what kind of animals, right? They don't care so much anymore about dogs like they used to as a whole. Some companies don't, it doesn't matter at all, but these are all things that you need to know, right? And the coastal guidelines, the coastal restrictions, when you're out here, in Long Island, on the water areas like Howard Beach, all through Queens, Brooklyn, Coney Island, all these areas that when you're near the water, it matters, right? It matters if your house is brick, if it's frame, if it's just brick frame, what's the percentage of brick, right? Has anyone ever asked you, what is the percentage of brick on your home, right? But it matters. It matters with water because that'll help keep everything out. And then we already talked about claim history, but the biggest thing on why one carrier might be better than another carrier for your specific home is replacement cost limitations, right? Some companies can only go up to 700,000. Some companies stop at 750. Some companies stop at 1.2 million. But here in the Northeast, Long Island, right? You know, all these big houses, the multifamily, you might need $2 million in replacement cost to actually properly insure your house. Most of these companies today aren't able to go that high, right? I'm lucky enough where I have access to companies that does allow for those higher replacement cost limits, and they send professionals to make sure that those numbers are assessed. They do an inspection, you know, after the closing to make sure that you have the right coverage, and then they go. I had a friend of mine buy a house across town. He didn't realize that his gutters on his beautiful new house, gorgeous, was copper. You know how much it costs to replace copper gutters? I mean, people, I mean, you talk to anyone who's in like these locals, like local 3 electricians, they got the Mongo, they're saving that and they're cashing in. Imagine some gutters. And I don't want to tell them where he lives because they'll go steal his gutters. The home inspector's laughing. I get that. But that's it, right? So this is the time, right? This is the time we're in. We're in a changing market, right? The honeymoon of everyone wanting to move out of wherever they were or upgrade their house of COVID, where the houses were going for $500,000 over the listing price in 37 seconds or less, right? That's over. Now it's back to work, right? It's the new phase that we're in, right? It's the back to the almost a normal market if you ask certain people, and it's time for some action, right? Get busy, you know, talk to people, be more of the advisor, right? I'm not a salesperson. Okay. I sell products? Yes, but I'm not here to sell anyone anything. I'm here to advise. I'm here to educate. I'm here to show you the right way. I have no problem on telling someone like, I can't help you because you want to do it this way. I can't help you because you want to buy that house that doesn't have soft land underneath it, right? I can't help you because the house that you decided to not have a home inspector on actually has an old tree stump as the supporting system of the house. That actually is true. That the last part, the tree stump, that actually is a true story. It's not too far from where I live, but let me know, get me involved, use me as a resource. Right. If your clients have questions about flood and they don't know what it is, I can get you a quote in very quickly and easily without having to even provide an elevation certificate. Right. If you have one, even better. But we should talk, we should get together, ask me questions. I just, threw out 1,000 things, probably talked way too fast for some people. Right. But that's it. But call me. Let's do this. All right. My number has been on every single screen, email. I got one number, right? It's my cell phone. I used my office number. It goes to my computer, but just call me on my cell, text me, email me, let me know how I can help you, how I can help your clients. And then we'll get involved, because a lot of times when, I was actually working with someone and they were calling me to help lower their cost because the investment property was too high. I actually discovered that maybe that they should really think about maybe reevaluating their home equity loan instead, because why are they paying 8.5%? Right? There's different things, right? If someone's selling a house, right, from they're buying the house from the estate, right? Like you have a family member that passes away and they pass it on, and now someone needs a mortgage to pay out the estate and someone keep the house. They still need to get that house inspected, right? Just because grandma lived there and took care of everything and has all the manual numbers written out in the book doesn't mean that house was actually tended to very well. Get the house inspected. Make sure it's in good conditioning. Know what you're getting into, all right? And then we can take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. This is wow. A wow presentation. Well done. And thank you so much. And I believe we have some questions. You can, if you like, you can stop sharing the screen for now. Yeah. And then yep. And there we go. Thank you. And we're back. Welcome back. And I think, Paul, Shannon, I think we have some questions, I believe. Or if anybody has questions, you can raise your hands, or you can just call out, or I'll see you. So any questions for Jesse?
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer everything generally. If it's a very claim specific thing, right? It's a lot of always a couple underlining factors that may be tough. but I'll do my best to address
And
whatever I
Jesse,
can.
we could also take it offline. So if it's a question that
Yeah,
continue
absolutely.
that you could always, that's something that, something that I'm always thinking of compliance and all that sort of issues. You could always take it offline and just say, hey, this is something that we could just discuss offline. So something like that. So any questions for Jesse?
All right, let's take a
Okay, wait,
look.
we have a question here. Go ahead. Shannon's gonna read the question. Shannon, you're muted. Yeah, I'll do this.
Sorry about that. I got
There
it.
you go. Okay.
I was wondering if you offer business insurance for business owners, and if you do, so for some of the folks that are here, maybe you can just explain, go into it a little bit.
Yeah, so I do offer business insurance, right? Business insurances can be just as wonderfully complicated as everything else. It all depends on what we're insuring, right? Are we insuring cars that are supposed to be a fleet for Ubers? Are we doing a house that's really going to be like, a 6-family place or a 1 to 3 family house? And how's it owned? Is it LLC, S corp, or a sole proprietor? So yeah, the answer is yes. I do insure all of the above, but what road we go down can really be a long road. But yeah, there's a lot of options.
Excellent. And then we have another one, right, Paul?
All right, Jesse. So you kind of sort of answered this for us, but I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more. My question is regarding to home inspectors, really, like do they work with insurance companies work with home inspectors, and how so? And can you elaborate on how they kind of intertwine?
Yeah, so they do and they don't, right? Like a little bit of a unique thing that I do is I ask for a couple things during home purchases to make sure that we're evaluating the house properly. So I ask for their home appraisal and I ask them for their home inspection report. Okay,
Right.
because the home inspector report can be very scary for a first-time home buyer, right? And as a thing about educating them, I let these clients know that, like, you know what, you have this little branch that's fallen over and they say it's a tripping hazard. It's not a big deal. Pick up the branch, throw it out. It's fine. Relax. It's a good house. I'll also tell someone if the house is going to be, if their house has one of these old electrical systems that's made from a different country that's on a short list that cause house fires, and I'll tell them that they should not buy this house, right? Also, if there's questions about the utility, certain utility things, the spaces, I'll go back and I'll ask the home inspector, hey, I'm working with so and so, they had questions about this, I'm working with them, do you remember the house? What can we talk about? How can I, and it's always been nice. It's always been a good conversation. Long as it's not too far down the road to circle back to the home inspector, they usually remember great details about the house.
No, but that's good to know that there's communication and there's some type of synergy that has to happen. So people are covered.
It takes a team, right? It takes a real team, right? You don't want to, like, when you're doing your home buying thing, you don't want to go find this guy on this Google search and use him for your title, and then this guy for your home inspection, and that person for your mortgage. You want to have like some sort of synergy to make everything flow, because this way, like if Juan's the buyer, right, and then and Nicole, all right, if you're the agent, right, and Shannon's the mortgage person, I could talk to everyone else without the buyer to get things done, get all the paperwork and file without bothering the client, right? Getting it all done and then going back when it's important. And this way we don't have to bother them. They already went through all the stress, all the visits, all the applications, getting new copies of their most recent pay stubs. Let's not bother them. Let's let them get to the closing table.
That's a great point. I'm a lender, and first time home buyers, they're already nervous. They are already stressed.
Scared.
They do not want to, they're not going to know anyway, to be honest with you. So you're better off communicating professional to professional for sure. Good
Yeah,
point.
that's it. And then also best practice I always do is I create a chain email with all of them, with the closing attorneys, with the loan officers, with everyone that needs to be involved. And then I CC them and I tell them before I do that, it's like, don't respond to this. This is just so you know that we got this. We got you covered. If you question anything, just check the emails. Don't freak out and have to call 10 people at 8 o'clock at night. We're not going to get an answer. Just look at your feed. You'll be fine.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, excellent. Any other questions for Jesse? Well, Jesse, yeah, Steve, go ahead. Steve, yeah, Steve has his hands up. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. So just a quick question about the bank, the lender.
Mhm.
What role do they have in the insurance? What say do they have?
What say do they have?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, are you talking? Well, I see commercial on there. Are you talking about commercial or the personal side? Because on the personal side, it really, like, they can say that they need to cover the loan amount, right? Or have some sort of proof showing the actual replacement cost, right? So the lender cannot dictate what we insure the house for, right? They can't say that, oh, you just bought this house in Montauk for $5 million, this property in Montauk for $5 million. You need to insure it for $5 million. But what if that's like one of those little 1-bedroom bungalows that's just oceanfront property, right? It's the land that makes that house, the ocean view that makes the house so valuable, not that little bungalow on there. So there's no way we can do that. We'll say, no, we're not going to do that. It costs $75,000 to rebuild that. That's your full replacement cost. We'll put guaranteed replacement cost value on there. And then they're more than happy with that, because that's all they need to know. Because, you know, if you buy a house in Iowa versus Montauk, right, the scope is completely different. The value is different there, right? If you buy a brand new house in the Poconos that's under construction versus an old construction that's already been built for 20 years, the replacement costs are all different, right? It all depends. It's all about the replacement cost, not the value or the loan amount. You know, making you whole again of the current structure there. They can say that they want a certain amount of liability, right? Depending on the size of the loan. You know, they do have some suggestions. It all depends on how niche of a loan it is, right? Like, you know, if it's hard money, they can say whatever they want. Otherwise, you're not going to get that loan. But you know, traditional things, it's usually there. Just show what it's really cost and then back it up.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions for Jesse?
Actually, I have one more tricky question. So listening on this podcast, there's a few people that actually have few multifamily properties and multiple properties, and they have them under LLC, and they're getting caught in a bind where there's a cap so for how many mortgages you can get. So they're looking to do maybe, you know, consider doing something on their personal loan, and they're questioning about umbrella policies. Do you know anything about that? And can you elaborate?
Yeah. So the umbrella is the excess liability, right? And you know, if those properties are 1 to 4 units, right? Whether they're owner occupied or non, under an LLC, a sole proprietor, or personally, right? You can insure them all. Now, each unit, right? If it's 4-unit house, each unit counts as a dwelling. So, you know, 2 units, you know, could easily stack up, and that'll drive up there because now you have more exposures, right? You have unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have 4 different exposures, and you have to have certain underlying coverage already on there, typically $300,000 of liability on the dwelling. So those umbrellas are great because they're going to cover you everything. Now, if you're going into the mass amounts, right? Like I have a client that owns 11 different properties in Southwest Florida. And, you know, we were able to provide, and they're all owned individually, right? Nothing's under an LLC, right? So I was able to get her a policy that would cover the total of all 11 separately from her own personal stuff for any up to $1 million per incidence on those grounds.
Wow. And as on a cash flow basis, that's amazing, because I know when you have a business, you save so much money on your taxes and doing all this paperwork. That's amazing. Thank you, Jesse. That's amazing. That's good to know.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. Any other questions for Jesse before we finalize everything? And I might have a question, Jesse. I was so captivated with the doggy pictures. Pet insurance. Any chance of any pet insurance? I'm just kidding.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. No, we don't offer it.
Okay, no worries.
I could guide you in the right. I got 2 dogs. As you can tell, I like dogs, even though I could sometimes do without mine. I was saying before about they were barking. Like, can you hear them? Because they're
They're
young.
great. I love it. I love it.
But
I'm a dog lover, and
I
I
d-
love the pictures of the dogs. So it just captivated. But anyway, Jesse, thank you so much. It was great. You're very knowledgeable, obviously, for the insurance. I mean,
Mhm.
and I always say people do business who they know, like, and trust. And I'm hoping that you'll get some exposure and more important, get some business. So hopefully that we'll help Jesse get some business. And now that you guys know Jesse, he's our friend, and we can trust him now. And he did this presentation, so you can always reach him for anything that you need. So thank you so much, and it's been wonderful, folks. And Shannon and Paul and Marlon and everybody on the team, thank you so much. It's been great. You guys did a great job. And thank you everybody for coming for winning on Wednesday. And we'll see you on next Wednesday. So, all right, folks, I'll take care.
All right. Thank you,
Take care.
everyone.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
night,
your time.
everybody.
Have a
Take care.
great one.
Bye-bye.